The classroom floated like a glass bubble inside the academy ring, high above the quiet blue curve of a planet no one in the room called home. Stars were everywhere outside the wide windows, sharp and cold, and they made the inside feel even warmer, even brighter. The air smelled faintly of clean metal and the soft citrus that the academy used to calm students from different worlds. Rows of seats rose in gentle steps. The seats were not all the same. Some were wide with deep cushions for heavy bodies. Some were narrow with harnesses for students who preferred to hang instead of sit. Some were smooth perches with heat panels for cold-blooded species. The academy tried hard to make everyone feel included. Still, the room always made Eli Carter feel like he was visiting a place built for someone else. Eli sat near the middle. He was small compared to most of his classmates. Even the ones who were still children by their own species, timelines were taller or longer, or simply took up more space. Eli kept his hands folded on the desk in front of him. His desk was a human-size add-on, attached to a larger modular station. It looked like a polite afterthought. He did not mind the desk. He minded the eyes. Some of the students glanced at him openly. Some stared when they thought he could not see. A few avoided looking at him at all, like he was a problem that might become contagious. Eli had learned the difference already. The hollow projector in the center of the room hummed softly, sending pale light across the ceiling. In that light stood Professor Zelera Virin, straight as a blade. She was tall and narrow, her skin a deep silver green that caught the projector's glow. Her eyes were dark and still, as if they were watching time itself pass by. She wore the academy's teaching mantle, but it looked like armor on her. Zelera did not smile when she entered. She never did. The room quieted without her asking. Even the students who liked to show off their strength or make small jokes stopped as soon as her shadow crossed the first row. Zelera's voice was not loud, but it carried perfectly, like it was designed to cut through any noise. "Today," she said, "we continue our study of the great civilizations of the spiral arm and the patterns that separate success from collapse." With a small motion of her hand, the hollow projector woke fully. A shining galaxy formed in the air, spinning slowly. Bright points flared like fireflies. Lines appeared, connecting systems, showing routes and borders. Names in several scripts hovered beside stars. Eli watched carefully. He liked maps. On Earth, maps had once meant safety paths home. Here, maps were also a kind of test. The alien students often spoke as if the galaxy belonged to them. Eli tried to remember that he belonged in it too, even if most people did not believe that yet. Zelera walked around the projector's light, not inside it. She kept herself outside the glow, like she did not want the map to touch her. Her fingers moved, and the galaxy shifted. A cluster zoomed forward and grew large, then another. Names of civilizations appeared and disappeared. "Civilizations rise," she said, "when they learn three things. They learn to cooperate beyond their own tribe. They learn to control resources without destroying themselves. They learn to act with reason instead of emotion." On the word emotion, several students made soft sounds, not exactly laughter, but something close. Eli felt his face warm. He did not know if that was embarrassment or anger, and he did not like either. Zelera's eyes drifted across the class. "You have been assigned comparative analysis," she said. "Your task is to describe what makes a civilization worthy of interstellar membership." A few hands lifted at once. A student from a feathered species raised a wing and began speaking before Zelera even pointed. "Worthy means contribution," the student said. "Technology, trade, stability. A civilization must add value." Zelera gave a small nod. "Adequate." Another student, long and segmented, lifted two front limbs. "Worthy means power," it said. "A civilization must defend itself. If it cannot, it becomes a burden." Zelera tilted her head slightly. "Noted, overly simplistic, but not incorrect." A third student, small and shining, spoke quickly. "Worthy means knowledge, discovery, art, something unique." This time Zelera paused. "Better," she said. "Uniqueness is often the only protection a young civilization possesses." Eli listened, trying not to shrink into his seat. The way Zelera spoke made every answer sound like it was being weighed against a perfect scale. Most students loved it. They wanted to be correct. They wanted her approval. Eli did not want her approval. He wanted her to stop looking at humans like they were a strange mistake the universe had made. The hollow projector changed again. A list appeared beside the galaxy, tall and clean, like a scoreboard. At the top were names Eli had heard many times: the Vorin Collective, the Selnari Conquered, the Caliph dynasties. Each name had symbols beside it, numbers, colored bars, and strange diagrams. Eli did not understand all the marks, but he understood what the list meant. It was a ranking. The students leaned forward. They always did when the ranking appeared. Here, Zelara said, is the Galactic Significance Index, a simplified measure, yes, but useful. She pointed at the top. These civilizations stabilize trade routes and prevent regional war. They contribute medicine, engineering, governance, culture. They build. Then her hand moved down the list, and the tone of her voice sharpened like a cold wind. These civilizations are recent, she continued. They are unstable, they have potential, but also risk. The list scrolled. Eli felt his throat tighten because he knew what was coming. He could almost feel it in his bones, the moment where the room would become a little crueler. The list kept dropping. He saw names of young species he had met in the hallways. Some of them looked nervous when their name went by, as if they were being watched by invisible judges. A few laughed it off, pretending they did not care. Eli wondered if they did care, deep down. Then the list reached the bottom. There, almost like an afterthought, was a label in a basic translation script: Humanity/Soul System. Next to it, the bars were short. The numbers were low. The color was a dull gray. A small sound ran through the room, not loud but sharp. It was the sound of amused disbelief. Eli heard someone whisper a word that the translator in his ear softened into primitive, but he knew it meant something worse. Zelara looked at the bottom entry for only a second. It was enough. Humanity, she said, as if reading a footnote. A late arrival, a species that continues to show dramatic behavior. Their technology is borrowed from allied grants. Their political unity is fragile. Their conflicts remain frequent. Their emotional volatility is high. Eli's hands tightened on the edge of his desk. He wanted to speak. He did not, because his voice always came out too small when he was angry. Some of the alien students turned to look at him now more openly. A tall student with a smooth black crest made a soft clicking sound that translated into a laugh. Another student leaned toward a friend and said something quick. The translator chose to skip the worst words, but Eli caught enough to understand. He took a slow breath. He remembered his mother's advice before he left Earth. Don't fight every battle, she had said. Choose the ones that matter, and don't let them make you smaller inside. Zelara continued as if nothing had happened. This is not an insult, she said, but her voice made it sound like one anyway. It is an observation. The galaxy is not sentimental. Eli stared at the hovering word humanity. He did not like seeing his people reduced to bars and numbers. It felt unfair, and not just because the numbers were low. It felt like someone had decided what humans were before they bothered to learn. Zelara turned back to the class. Now, she said, your assignment is simple. Define what makes a civilization irreplaceable. If a civilization vanished tomorrow, what would the galaxy lose? Her eyes moved to the higher ranks, then down, then paused again near the bottom. The room was quiet, but it was not a friendly quiet. It was the kind of quiet that waits for something embarrassing to happen. Zelara's gaze settled on Eli. The air seemed to become thinner. Eli felt every heartbeat in his chest. He kept his face calm, but inside he wanted to hide behind the desk, behind the wall, behind anything. You, Zelara said. Eli blinked once. Sometimes the translator lagged by a fraction of a second, but this time the word hit him perfectly on time, like a dart. He looked up. Me, Professor? Yes, she said. Human student Eli Carter. Several students turned fully in their seats now. A few leaned forward as if the next moment was entertainment. Someone at the back gave a quiet snort, quickly covered as a cough. Zelara walked a little closer to Eli's row. She did not need to. Her voice could reach him from anywhere. She did it anyway, as if she wanted to make sure he understood this was personal. Your species is ranked low, she said. Not because of prejudice, because of facts, and yet you are here. The Academy has accepted you, so tell us. Eli swallowed. His mouth felt dry. Zelara's eyes did not soften. If your species deserves a place among the stars, she said, what makes it irreplaceable? A thin ripple of laughter moved through the class. Not everyone laughed. Some looked uncertain. A few looked bored, like they had already decided the answer would be weak. Eli saw one student, a round one with soft fur and kind eyes, glance at him with something that might have been sympathy. Eli's ears burned. He could feel the heat in his cheeks. He kept his hands on the desk so no one would see them shake. He searched his mind fast. Facts, numbers, technology. Those were the kinds of answers that worked in this room. He thought of Earth's inventions, the things he had learned in his short life. Fusion drives. Deep space telescopes. The early human outposts. The medical work humans had shared, the small improvements that had saved lives. But he also knew the truth. Humans had gotten into the wider galaxy because older civilizations had opened doors. Humans had not forced those doors open. Not yet. If he talked about power, someone would list a species that had conquered a dozen systems. If he talked about trade, someone would name a civilization that controlled half the markets in the arm. If he talked about knowledge, someone would mention libraries older than Earth's entire recorded history. He could already hear it: adequate, simplistic, not incorrect, not enough. Eli's chest tightened. He did not want to fail, not because he wanted to look smart. Because if he failed here, it would feel like humans failed. Like Zelara was right to talk about them like they were nothing. He glanced at the hologram again. Humanity/soul system hung there, small and gray. He remembered the last night on Earth, the way the sky had looked from his grandmother's roof. The stars had been scattered, the city lights trying to drown them out, but failing. His grandmother had stood beside him and said, "We are tiny, Eli, but we still look up." He remembered his father packing his bag and pretending not to be emotional. He remembered the hug that lasted too long, the one that said words that could not fit into a sentence. He remembered his mother pressing a small patch into his hand, a stitched symbol of Earth, a blue circle with white clouds. "If you get lonely," she had said, "touch it. Remember that you come from people who don't quit on each other." Eli looked back up at Zelara. She was waiting, patient in a sharp way, like a scientist watching an experiment. Around him, the class waited too. Some wanted him to fail, some just wanted the moment to pass. Eli took another breath. He knew his voice might shake. He decided he would speak anyway. But before he could, Zelara added almost casually, "Do not offer poetry, offer proof." A few students made approving sounds. Eli felt something in him flicker, anger, yes, but also a stubborn kind of courage. Humans were tired of being told their hearts were a weakness. Humans were tired of being told not to speak like humans. Eli opened his mouth. The room held its breath. And Professor Zelara Virin, who had studied civilizations for centuries, watched the human child like she was already sure of the outcome, like she had already written his people's ending in her notes. "Answer," she said. Eli's voice did not come out strong at first. It came out small, like a sound that had to push past fear before it could become a word. "I think," he said, and then stopped. The pause felt heavy. A few students shifted in their seats. Zelara raised one thin brow, not in impatience, but in expectation, like she was watching a machine that might fail to start. Eli swallowed and tried again. "I think being irreplaceable doesn't mean being the best at something," he said. "It means being the only one who does something a certain way." Zelara folded her hands behind her back. "Continue," she said. Eli looked at the hologram again, but this time he did not look at the numbers. He looked at the stars behind it, the real ones, sharp and bright through the window. "Humans aren't the strongest," he said. "We know that. We aren't the oldest. We aren't the smartest in every way. But we care in a way that doesn't stop when it becomes hard." A few students made quiet sounds, not laughing this time, but confused. Eli heard one whisper, "All species care." Eli nodded a little, like he had heard the thought, even if he had not heard the words. "I know other species care," he said. "But humans care even when it doesn't help us, even when it costs us." Zelara's eyes narrowed just a little. "That is a claim," she said, "not proof." Eli's heart beat faster, but he did not look away. "I can try to explain," he said. He took a breath and pictured Earth again. The blue oceans, the brown and green land, the smallness of it compared to the galaxy. "When humans first went into space," Eli said, "we didn't know if we would ever come back. Some people didn't, but we still went, not because we wanted to own the stars. Because we wanted to see what was there. We wanted to know if someone else was out there too." A tall student lifted a clawed hand. "Curiosity is not unique," it said. "My species mapped 10,000 systems before humanity built its first orbital station." Eli nodded. "That's true," he said. "But when humans find something new, we don't just study it. We tell stories about it. We make songs, we make pictures. We teach our children about it so they can dream bigger than we did." The class grew quieter. Not silent, but attentive in a different way, the kind of quiet that listens instead of waits. Zelara took a step closer. The light from the hologram touched the edge of her mantle now, turning it pale blue. Stories do not hold empires together, she said. They do not stop wars. Eli hesitated, then he shook his head. No, he said, but they remind us why we should. Someone in the back made a soft sound, like a breath they did not realize they were holding. Eli felt a strange warmth in his chest, not pride, not yet. Something else, like the feeling you get when you say something true and it finally leaves your head and becomes real in the air. He kept going. On Earth, he said, we have places where nothing grows anymore. Places where the land was hurt by mistakes people made a long time ago. We still go there. We plant trees. We clean the water. We know we might not see it become beautiful again in our lifetime. But we do it anyway, because someone else will. Zalara's fingers tightened slightly behind her back. Eli did not see it, but a few students in the front row did. A student with bright glass-like eyes spoke up. That is inefficiency, it said. Resources spent without return. Eli looked at the student. The return is that the world gets better, he said simply, even if we don't get the reward. The glass-eyed student tilted its head, clearly not satisfied but also not ready with a response. Eli turned back to Zalara. My grandmother used to say humans are good at one thing more than anything else, he said. We stay. Stay where? Zalara asked. With each other, Eli said. When someone is hurt, when someone is scared, when someone is alone. The room was very quiet now. Even the hum of the hollow projector seemed louder. Zalara's voice came slower. Many species form social bonds, she said. That is not rare. Eli nodded again. But humans form them across lines that don't make sense, he said. We care for people who don't look like us, who don't think like us, who come from places we've never seen. He hesitated, then added, we care for animals that aren't even our species. We care for ideas, for memories, for people who lived before we were born and people who won't be born for a long time. A small, round student raised a paw. That sounds heavy, it said. Doesn't it make life harder? Eli thought about it, about all the sad stories he knew, about the news his parents sometimes tried to hide from him, about the way humans cried and still kept going. Yes, he said, it does, but it also makes life bigger. Zalara did not speak for a moment. Her eyes moved across the class like she was seeing them for the first time instead of measuring them. Eli felt a strange shift in the air. The kind you feel before a storm or before something important changes. He took a risk. There's something else, he said. Zalara looked back at him. Speak. When humans find something broken, Eli said, we don't always walk away, even if it's not our fault. Even if it's not our problem, we try to fix it. A tall, armored student laughed softly. Your history suggests otherwise, it said. Your species has caused much harm. Eli did not argue. Yes, he said, we have a lot, that's why we try to fix things. We know what it's like to be the ones who make mistakes, so when we see someone else hurting, we recognize it. The laughter faded. Zalara's face did not change, but something in her eyes did. A flicker, quick and gone, like a memory brushing past. The hologram in the center of the room shifted on its own, reacting to subtle movements from Zalara's control band. The galaxy faded, and in its place appeared an old image. Grainy, faded. It showed a small world, pale and thin, with broken structures scattered across its surface. Some of the students murmured. They recognized it. That is Lareth Colony, one said. The abandoned one. Zalara did not respond to the student. Her gaze was fixed on the image. Eli looked at it too. What happened? He asked quietly. Zalara's voice was steady but tight. A resource failure, she said. Environmental collapse. Evacuation was prioritized. Some people were left behind, the round student said softly. Zalara did not deny it. Eli felt something heavy settle in his chest. He did not know the full story, but he could guess enough. If humans had been there, Eli said before he could stop himself, I think we would have gone back. A sharp intake of breath came from somewhere in the room. Zalara turned to him slowly. On what basis do you make that claim? She asked. Eli's hands trembled now, but he did not pull them away from the desk. Because we go back for people all the time, he said, even when it's dangerous, even when it doesn't make sense. He thought of stories his father had told him about rescue teams, about people who ran into burning buildings, into floods, into storms. We have a word for it, Eli said. We call it hope. The hologram flickered. For a moment, the image of the broken colony glitched, and something else flashed through it. Not a planet. A group of figures huddled together, old footage from a different place and time. Zalara's breath caught just barely. It was so small that only the closest students noticed. Eli saw her shoulders tense. He had not meant to do that. He had not meant to push. He had just been trying to explain. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. "I didn't mean—" Zelara raised a hand and he stopped. The room felt like it was holding its breath again, but this time it was not waiting for him to fail. It was waiting for her. She turned away from the hologram and faced the class. "Humans," she said, and the words sounded different now, not sharp, not flat. "You say your species is irreplaceable because it hopes." Eli nodded. "Yes, Professor. And because it stays," Zelara added. "Yes, and because it returns to what is broken," she finished. "Yes." Zelara was silent for a long time. The stars outside the window kept moving, slow and patient. Finally, she spoke, but not to Eli alone, to everyone. "My people once believed that efficiency was the highest form of wisdom," she said. "We believed that emotion clouded judgment, that attachment weakened resolve." Some of the older students shifted. They had heard this before as a lesson, as a point of pride. Zelara's voice softened just a fraction. "We left a world behind because it made sense, because it saved more lives elsewhere. We told ourselves that was enough." The image of the broken colony still hovered in the air. Eli did not say anything. He did not need to. Zelara looked back at him. Her eyes were not cold now. They were searching. "You claim your species would have returned," she said. "I think we would have tried," Eli said. "Even if we failed." The word failed hung in the air, honest and heavy. A tall student spoke, uncertain now. "But trying and failing changes nothing." Eli shook his head. "It changes the people who were not alone anymore," he said, "even if only for a moment." The room was silent in a new way, not tense, not mocking, respectful. Zelara turned away. She took 2 slow steps toward the window and looked out at the stars. "Class," she said, and her voice was not sharp anymore. "Recess." No one moved at first. "Go," she repeated more softly. The students stood slowly like they were afraid to break something fragile. Some glanced at Eli as they passed, not with laughter, not with pity, with something closer to curiosity, and for a few something like admiration. Eli stayed seated. He was not sure if his legs would hold him. Zelara remained by the window, her back to him, her shoulders still. The stars outside kept shining, silent and endless. And for the first time since Eli had entered the academy, he felt like maybe, just maybe, the galaxy was listening. The hallway outside the classroom felt wider than usual. The curved walls of the academy ring glowed with soft light, and streams of students moved past Eli in slow, quiet lines. Their voices were lower than before. Some were whispering, some were not talking at all. Eli stepped out last. The door slid closed behind him with a smooth, quiet sound. He stood there for a moment, unsure what to do with himself. His heart still felt like it was beating too fast, like it had not realized the moment was over. His hands were warm, and he kept opening and closing his fingers without thinking about it. A few students passed him and looked back. One of them, the small, round one with soft fur, stopped. "That was brave," it said. Eli blinked. "I didn't mean to cause trouble." The round student made a gentle sound that translated as a soft laugh. "You didn't," it said. "You caused thinking, that's harder." Eli did not know what to say to that, so he just nodded. More students walked by. A tall, armored one slowed for a second, then spoke without looking directly at Eli. "Your species is loud," it said. Eli waited. "But maybe," the student added, "that is not always a flaw." Then it walked away. Eli let out a breath he did not realize he had been holding. He moved down the hallway toward the common area. The academy's main ring was filled with open spaces, gardens under artificial skies, and quiet corners where students from different worlds could sit together or apart. Eli usually went to a small bench near a patch of earth plants that the academy kept as a cultural exhibit. It smelled like soil and green leaves, and it reminded him of home. He headed there now. As he walked, his translator chimed softly, a message request. He hesitated, then accepted it. It was from Professor Zelara. "Come to my office," the message said, "when you are able." Eli stopped in the middle of the walkway. Students flowed around him like a slow river. His first thought was fear. Had he said something wrong? Had he broken some rule he did not know about? His second thought was curiosity. He turned and followed the path markers toward the faculty section of the ring. Zelara's office was quiet and dim compared to the bright classrooms. The walls were a dark, smooth material that did not reflect much light. The door opened when Eli stood in front of it, sliding aside without a sound. Inside, the room felt old. Not in a broken way, but in a way that suggested it had seen many years, many conversations. Shelves lined the walls, filled with data crystals, physical books, and strange objects from different worlds. A large window showed a slow-moving starfield. Zalara stood near a table in the center of the room. She did not turn when Eli entered. "You may sit," she said. Eli sat in a chair that adjusted itself to his size. He folded his hands in his lap and waited. Zalara took a long moment before speaking. "Your answer today," she said, "was not part of the curriculum." "I'm sorry," Eli said quickly. Zalara raised a hand. "I did not say it was wrong." She turned to face him. Up close, Eli could see details he had never noticed before. Fine lines in her skin that suggested great age. A faint scar near one eye, almost hidden by the silver-green tone of her face. "You spoke of returning to what is broken," she said, "of staying with those who are left behind." Eli nodded. "Yes, Professor." Zalara walked slowly to one of the shelves and took down a small, dark crystal. She held it in both hands for a moment, then placed it on the table between them. "This," she said, "is a memory archive." Eli leaned forward a little. "What kind of memory?" "Mine," she said. She touched the crystal, and a soft light spread across the room. The office faded, replaced by an image in the air. It was clearer than the classroom hologram, sharper, more real. Eli saw a different world, bright, green, wide oceans, and tall, pale structures that reached into the sky. The sun above it was warm and golden. Zalara's voice came through the memory. "This was Lareth," she said. "Before." The image shifted. Eli saw people now, tall beings like Zalara moving through wide streets, speaking to each other, carrying children, working, living. "My people settled this world because it was perfect," Zalara continued. "It had everything we needed. We built cities we planned for centuries." The memory moved forward in time. The sky grew darker, storms rolled in. The ground cracked in places. "The planet's core began to fail," Zalara said. "Slowly at first, then faster. We calculated the outcome. We had time to evacuate most of the population." Eli watched ships lift into the sky, long lines of people boarding them. He also saw others standing behind barriers watching the ships leave. "Some refused to go," Zalara said. "Some could not. Some were not given space." Eli's chest tightened. "I was part of the council that made the decision," Zalara said. "We chose efficiency. We saved the many by leaving the few." The image froze on a group of figures standing on a high ridge, watching the last ship disappear. The light faded. The office returned. Eli did not speak. He did not know how. Zalara looked at him. Her eyes were not hard now. They were tired. "For centuries," she said, "I told myself it was the correct choice. That logic demanded it. That emotion would have doomed us all." She paused. "Then you said your people would return," she said, "even if you failed." Eli shifted in his chair. "I don't know if all humans would," he said honestly, "but I know some would, enough of them." Zalara studied him. "Why?" "Because," Eli said, "we don't like the idea of someone being alone at the end of everything." Zalara looked back at the window. The stars outside moved slowly, like they were listening. "There were children on Lareth," she said quietly. "I remember one. She asked me if the ships would come back." Eli's throat tightened. "I told her they would not," Zalara said, "because that was the truth." She turned back to him. "Your answer today made me wonder if truth and wisdom are always the same thing." Eli did not have a clever response. He only had the simple one. "Sometimes," he said, "we tell ourselves stories about what we should do. And sometimes we just do the thing that feels right, even if it's harder." Zalara gave a small, almost invisible nod. The door chimed softly. A voice came through. "Professor Virin, the Convergence Council is requesting your presence." Zalara closed her eyes for a brief moment, then opened them. "Tell them I will come," she said. The door went quiet again. Zalara looked at Eli. "The Council reviews the Galactic Significance Index today," she said. "Your species will be discussed." Eli's heart jumped. "Did I make things worse?" "On the contrary," Zalara said. "You made them complicated." Eli was not sure if that was good or bad. She walked to her desk and picked up a small, thin device. "You should return to the common area," she said. "Class will resume later." Eli stood. "Professor, yes, thank you," he said. Zalara paused. "For what?" "For listening," Eli said. Zalara looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, "It has been a long time since I remembered how." Eli left the office and walked back through the academy ring. His steps felt lighter and heavier at the same time. The common area was more crowded now. Students from different classes and worlds gathered around tables, gardens, and open spaces. Eli spotted the round, soft-furred student sitting near the earth plants and walked over. "Did you get in trouble?" it asked. Eli shook his head. "No, I think I made homework for someone very important." The student made a curious sound. "That sounds dangerous." "Yeah," Eli said, "it kind of does." They sat in silence for a moment, watching a group of flying students drift overhead, laughing softly. A large screen on the far wall flickered to life. Usually it showed announcements or star maps. This time it showed the symbol of the Convergence Council. The room grew quiet as students noticed. A calm, neutral voice filled the space. "Attention, Academy, a council session is in progress. Observational access is granted." An image appeared, a vast chamber circular with seats rising high. Different species filled the seats, each in their own section. At the center stood Professor Zelara. Eli's heart began to pound. A council member spoke. "Professor Virin, you requested a review of the human classification." "Yes," Zelara said. Her voice was steady, but Eli could hear something under it now, something alive. "State your reasoning," the council member said. Zelara took a breath. "For centuries," she said, "we have measured civilizations by what they build, what they control, what they produce. We have measured strength, efficiency, and stability." The image zoomed slightly closer. "Today," she continued, "a human child reminded me of something we do not measure." The council chamber stirred. "We do not measure who stays when it is easier to leave," Zelara said. "We do not measure who returns when it makes no sense. We do not measure who carries hope into places where logic says it should not exist." A low murmur ran through the chamber. Zelara lifted her hand, and the image of Lareth Colony appeared in the center of the council chamber, just as it had in the classroom. "We left this world behind," she said, "and we called it wisdom." The image shifted. This time it showed a different scene. Eli gasped softly. It was human footage, rescue ships landing on a ruined world, human figures in bright suits carrying injured beings, alien beings, onto their ships. Zelara's voice was clear. "Humans did not cause this disaster," she said, "but they answered it." The common area was completely silent now. "I propose," Zelara said, "that humanity be reclassified, not by their power, not by their age, but by their role." A council member leaned forward. "And what role is that, Professor?" Zelara looked straight ahead. "Cultural pillars," she said, "a species that reminds the galaxy how to care." Eli felt his eyes sting. He blinked hard, embarrassed, but he did not look away. The council chamber went quiet, the screen flickered, the voice returned. "Deliberation will commence." The image faded. The common area stayed silent for a long moment. Then slowly, softly, students began to talk. Some looked at Eli, some smiled, some just nodded. The round, soft-furred student patted Eli's arm. "Looks like your species just got a new job," it said. Eli let out a shaky laugh. He looked up at the stars through the academy's wide window. Somewhere far away, Earth was turning. People were living their lives, not knowing what had just happened in a place among the stars. Eli touched the small patch in his pocket, the blue circle with white clouds. "We're still here," he whispered, not just to himself, but to the galaxy. And for the first time, he felt like the galaxy might answer back. The Academy did not go back to normal after the council session. It tried to. The lights still glowed the same soft colors. The halls still curved in their clean, perfect lines. The stars outside still moved slowly across the wide windows, but something in the air had changed, like a quiet echo that did not fade. Eli felt it as he walked through the common area. Students looked at him differently now. Not like he was a strange visitor, not like he was something fragile or out of place. They looked at him like he belonged. A tall, long-necked student stopped him near one of the water gardens. "Is it true?" it asked. "Did your people really go back to a world that wasn't yours?" Eli nodded. "Yes," he said, "more than once." The student tilted its head. "Why?" Eli thought for a moment. "Because someone was there," he said, "and someone being there matters to us." The student made a low, thoughtful sound and walked away. Eli kept moving. He found his usual bench near the earth plants. The leaves were a little dry today. The academy gardeners did their best, but earth plants were hard to keep happy so far from home. Eli reached out and touched one gently, just to feel something familiar. The translator chimed again in his ear. This time the message was not from Professor Zelara, it was from Earth. His mother's face appeared in a small hollow window in front of him. The image flickered for a second, then settled. "Eli," she said, smiling wide. You're famous. Eli blinked. What? Not famous like a singer, she laughed. But your school sent a message. They said something about a council and a new classification. Eli's heart jumped. They told you already? Everyone, she said. The news channels picked it up. Humanity named cultural pillars of the galaxy. Your father cried. He's pretending he didn't. Eli smiled so hard his face hurt. His mother's smile softened. What did you say to them, Eli? Eli looked at the earth plants. I just told them what you and Grandma always told me, he said. That we stay with people, that we don't leave when things get hard. His mother nodded. Sounds like us. The call ended, but the warmth stayed with him. Later that day, Eli returned to class. The classroom looked the same, but the feeling inside was different. Students sat closer together now, not in separate groups by species, but mixed in small clusters. The hollow projector hummed softly, waiting. Professor Zelera entered. The room fell quiet, but not in fear this time. It was a respectful quiet, a listening quiet. Zelera stood at the front and looked at the class. Her eyes passed over the students, and when they reached Eli, she paused, just for a moment. Before we begin, she said, there has been a decision. The hollow projector lit up. The Galactic Significance Index appeared again. The familiar list scrolled into view. Eli held his breath. At the bottom, where humanity/soul system had once been small and gray, something new appeared. The label was still there, but now there was a symbol beside it. Not a bar, not a number. A small, steady light. Below the name, new words glowed in clear script. Cultural pillars, caretakers, witnesses, returners. A soft sound ran through the room. Not laughter, not surprise, wonder. Zelera spoke. This classification does not raise humanity above others, she said. It gives them a role, one that many of us have forgotten. She looked around the room. Every civilization here builds, every civilization here grows, but not every civilization remembers. Her gaze moved back to Eli. Humans have reminded us how. Class began after that, but it was different. The lesson was about lost civilizations, but now it was not just numbers and charts. Students asked questions about people, about what they had loved, what they had left behind. Eli found himself answering some of those questions. Not as a student being tested, but as someone being listened to. When class ended, Zelera asked him to stay behind. The room emptied slowly. A few students waved at Eli as they left. The round, soft-furred one gave him a thumbs up with a paw. Eli stood by his desk, waiting. Zelera walked to the hollow projector and turned it off. The room dimmed slightly. You have changed the course of my work, she said. Eli's eyes widened. I didn't mean to. Zelera allowed a small, quiet smile. That is often how the most important changes happen. She walked to a shelf and took down a small object. It was a thin metal disc, etched with symbols Eli did not recognize. This, she said, is given to those who help preserve the memory of the galaxy. She held it out to him. Eli hesitated. I didn't do anything that big. Zelera shook her head. You reminded us to look at what we were measuring, she said. That is not small. Eli took the disc carefully. It felt warm in his hand. Thank you, he said. Zelera nodded. There is something else, she added. Yes. The council has approved a new program, she said. Exchange missions, not for trade, not for research. For what? Eli asked. For presents, Zelera said. Human volunteers will be sent to worlds in recovery, worlds in crisis, worlds that have been forgotten. Eli's chest filled with something that felt like pride and fear at the same time. Do you think people will go? He asked. Zelera looked out the window at the stars. I believe, she said, that they already are preparing. Weeks passed. The academy changed in small ways. A human story night was added to the cultural calendar. Students gathered to listen to tales from Earth, stories about oceans and storms, about small villages and big cities, about people who made mistakes and tried again. Other species began sharing their stories too. The nights grew longer and louder, filled with voices and memories instead of just data. Eli received messages from Earth often now. His grandmother sent him a video of the night sky from her roof. Still looking up, she said. One day, the academy held a ceremony. It took place in the main viewing hall, where the biggest window showed a wide, endless field of stars. Students, teachers, and visitors from the council filled the space. Zelera stood at the front. Today, she said, we mark the beginning of a new chapter in galactic history. The screen behind her lit up. Images appeared of human ships, painted with simple blue and white symbols preparing to leave stations and docks. Alongside them were ships from other species, flying together. "These missions are not about ownership," Zelara said. "They are about witness, about standing where someone else stands and saying, 'You are not alone.'" Eli sat in the front row. His heart beat fast. A council member spoke next. "Let it be recorded," they said, "that humanity's first official role in the wider galaxy is not as rulers, not as conquerors, not as merchants." The member paused. "But as companions." The hall filled with a soft, rising sound, applause in 100 different forms. Eli felt tears in his eyes again. He did not wipe them away this time. That night he stood by the academy window looking at the stars. Zelara joined him. "Do you still feel small?" she asked. Eli thought about it. The galaxy was still huge. The stars were still endless. "Yes," he said, "but I don't feel invisible anymore." Zelara nodded. "Neither do I." She handed him a small data pad. "Your next assignment," she said. Eli looked at the screen. It showed a world far away, a name he could not pronounce. A short description: recovering unstable, population displaced. Eli looked up at her. "You want me to go?" "Only if you choose to," Zelara said. "This is not an order." Eli thought of Earth, of his family, of the blue patch in his pocket. He thought of the child in Zelara's memory, asking if the ships would come back. "I want to go," he said. Zelara placed a hand over her heart, a gesture Eli had learned meant deep respect among her people. "Then go," she said, "and do what your species does best." "What's that?" Eli asked. Zelara looked at the stars. "Stay," she said. "Return, remember." Months later, a small human ship left the Academy's dock. Eli stood at a window inside it, watching the station grow smaller. Beside him stood students from 3 other species, all volunteers. The ship's engines hummed softly. Eli took out the patch from his pocket and pressed it between his fingers. "We're still here," he whispered again. The ship jumped into the stars. And across the galaxy, on worlds that had been quiet for too long, lights began to appear in the dark.